They didn't hesitate. My parents looked at me through the phone. Well, I couldn't see them, but I could hear it in my mom's voice and said, "Don't come home." Not because I did something wrong. Not because I was rude or mean or caused any real problems. But because my sister didn't want me there.
Just like that.
24 years of being their daughter, and I got uninvited from Thanksgiving like I was some annoying neighbor they didn't want around anymore. So, I left them alone. I stopped calling. I stopped trying. Years passed. I built a life without them. A real life. With people who actually wanted me around. Then one day, standing at the altar on my wedding day, wearing the most beautiful dress I'd ever seen, I saw them walk in. Uninvited. Unwanted. And that's when everything they buried came back. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. Because this story, it didn't start at my wedding. It started with a phone call that broke something inside me I didn't even know could break. Before I go further, I need to know something. Have you ever been left out by your own family? Not by friends or classmates, but by the people who are supposed to love you no matter what? Drop a comment and let me know. And if this story sounds familiar, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. November 18th. That's when everything fell apart. I was standing in my tiny apartment in Seattle. The heat wasn't working great, so I had 3 blankets wrapped around me and a cup of hot chocolate going cold on the counter. I'd just bought my plane ticket home to Denver. Non-refundable. $243 I really didn't have, but it was Thanksgiving. You go home for Thanksgiving. That's what families do. My phone buzzed.
Mom.
I smiled. Maybe she was calling to ask what kind of pie I wanted. Or to tell me what time to arrive. Hey, Mom. Silence. Not the good kind. The kind that makes your stomach twist. Jenna.
Her voice was flat. Cold.
Like she was talking to a telemarketer. What's wrong? Is Dad okay? Your father's fine. Another pause. I could hear her breathing. Listen. I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to make a big deal out of it. My heart started beating faster. That sentence never means anything good. Okay, don't come home this year. I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. What do you mean? I mean don't come home for Thanksgiving. Stay in Seattle. The hot chocolate wasn't steaming anymore. I stared at it. Mom, I already bought my ticket. I was packing. Why would I? Because Melissa doesn't want you here. Everything went quiet. Even the sound of traffic outside my window seemed to disappear. What? Your sister is pregnant again. She's very stressed. And she told me she doesn't want any drama this year. Drama? My voice came out small. Confused. What drama? I haven't even talked to Melissa in like 3 months. Exactly. And let's keep it that way. She needs peace right now, Jenna. This pregnancy has been hard on her. I sat down on the edge of my bed. My legs just gave out. So, I'm not invited because Melissa doesn't want me there? Don't say it like that. You're making it sound worse than it is. How should I say it? She sighed. The kind of sigh that meant I was being difficult. I'd heard that sigh my whole life. You know how you get, Jenna. You ask questions. You bring up things that are better left alone. Melissa doesn't need that stress right now. How I get? Those 3 words. I'd heard them 100 times. When I asked why I wasn't invited to Melissa's college graduation party. You know how you get. When I asked why Mom and Dad missed my high school award ceremony but made it to every single one of Melissa's soccer games. You know how you get. When I asked why they paid for Melissa's wedding but told me I'd have to save up for my own someday. You know how you get. I looked down at my suitcase. Half-packed. My favorite sweater folded on top. Mom, I already have the ticket. Then cancel it. Get a refund. It's non-refundable. Well, that's unfortunate. But Jenna, you need to understand. Your sister comes first right now. She's carrying our grandchild. Our grandchild. Not my niece or nephew. Not my sister's baby. Our grandchild. Like I wasn't even part of the our. Does Dad know about this? Another pause. Your father agrees with me. Can I talk to him? He's busy right now. Of course he was. I closed my eyes.
Took a deep breath.
So, I'm just not coming home for Thanksgiving because Melissa said so. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. My voice cracked. I didn't mean to yell. I'm trying to understand why my own mother is uninviting me from Thanksgiving. I'm not uninviting you. I'm asking you to be understanding, to think about someone other than yourself for once. That hurt worse than anything else she'd said. Someone other than myself. Like I was selfish. Like I was the problem. I'd spent 24 years trying not to be the problem. Okay, I whispered. Okay, what? Okay, I won't come home. She let out a breath.
Relieved.
Thank you, Jenna. I knew you'd understand. We'll do something together another time. Maybe Christmas. Maybe. Sure, Mom. I have to go. Melissa's calling. Love you. She hung up before I could say it back. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen, watching it go dark. Outside, it started to rain. I looked at my suitcase, at the plane ticket confirmation on my laptop, at the pumpkin-scented candle I'd bought to make my apartment feel festive. And I realized something I should have realized years ago. I was never going to be enough for them, no matter how quiet I was, no matter how understanding, no matter how many times I smiled and said it's okay when it wasn't okay. Melissa would always come first, and I would always be the one they could toss aside. I called my dad anyway, even though I knew. He answered on the fifth ring. Hey, kiddo.
Kiddo.
He only called me that when he felt guilty. Dad, did Mom tell you? Silence. The TV was on in the background. Football, probably. She mentioned it. And you're okay with it? You don't think maybe I should be able to come home for Thanksgiving? I could hear him shifting in his chair. Uncomfortable. Your mom's just trying to keep everyone happy, Jenna. Everyone except me. It's not like that. Then what is it like? More silence. Longer this time. Dad, do you want me there? I waited. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 15. Please say yes. Please just say yes. He cleared his throat. I think it's better if you listen to your mother this year. Just let Melissa have this, okay? She's going through a lot. Something inside me went cold. Not sad. Not angry. Just empty. Okay, Dad. Jenna. I hung up. He didn't call back. I sat on my bed as the rain got harder. The apartment got darker. And I finally understood. They'd made their choice.
And it wasn't me.
It had never been me. Thanksgiving morning came gray and cold. I woke up to the sound of my neighbors upstairs. Footsteps. Laughter. A little kid yelling something about turkey. Families were gathering. Everywhere around me, people were hugging and cooking and being together. And I was alone. I made coffee. Instant because I forgot to buy the good kind. It tasted like hot water and regret. My phone sat on the counter.
Silent.
No, happy Thanksgiving, text from Mom. No call from Dad. Nothing from Melissa, obviously. I checked Instagram. Big mistake. Melissa had posted a photo 20 minutes ago. The whole family around the dining table. Mom, Dad, Melissa, her husband Ryan, their 3-year-old daughter Emma in a little pilgrim dress. Everyone smiling. Everyone happy. The caption said, * grateful for my family. The people who matter most. *. I zoomed in on the picture. Counted the chairs. 5 people. 5 chairs. No empty spot where I should have been. They hadn't just uninvited me. They'd erased me. Like I never existed. I closed the app. Put my phone face down. Stared at the ceiling. I could order Chinese food. Stay in my pajamas. Watch movies all day and pretend this was a choice. Pretend I wanted to be alone. But something in me said no. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I'm not letting them win. I grabbed my coat. If I was going to eat Thanksgiving dinner alone, I was going to do it somewhere with real food. With lights. With life. I found a restaurant online. The Evergreen Room. One of those old Seattle places with dark wood and fancy napkins and candles on the tables. Open on Thanksgiving. Thank God. I got dressed. Put on mascara even though my eyes were puffy from crying the night before, grabbed my purse, and I walked out into the cold. The evergreen room was warm when I pushed through the door. The smell hit me first.
Turkey.
Stuffing, fresh bread, real Thanksgiving food. And then the sound. Talking, laughing. Families everywhere. A couple with their elderly parents. A group of friends in matching sweaters. Parents with kids who were probably visiting from college. Everyone belonged to someone. The hostess looked at me with sad eyes. Just one today? Just one. Those two words felt like a punch.
Yeah.
Just me. She grabbed the menu. Right this way. She led me to the smallest table in the corner, right next to the kitchen door, right beside a huge family that took up 3 tables pushed together. I could have reached out and touched their chairs. Your server will be right with you. I sat down, opened the menu, pretended to read it. The family next to me was loud in the best way. An older couple at the head, maybe late 60s. A man about 40 with his wife and 2 kids. And a younger guy, maybe 30, who kept making everyone laugh. 3 generations. Easy. They passed dishes without asking. Interrupted each other. Teased and joked and belonged. I watched them without meaning to. This is what family is supposed to look like. The server came by. A woman about my age with tired eyes and a tight smile. What can I get you? The Thanksgiving special, please. She wrote it down. Gave me a small, understanding nod. Like she knew. Like she could tell I didn't want to be here alone. I'll get that right out. I sat there with my water and my bread basket and tried not to look at the family beside me. But I couldn't help it. The older man was telling a story. Everyone was leaning in, smiling, waiting for the punchline. When he delivered it, the whole table erupted in laughter. Even the little kids were giggling. I looked down at my empty plate. My family was doing this right now. In Denver. Around Mom's dining table with the fancy plates she only used on holidays. Were they talking about me? Probably not. I bet they hadn't thought about me once. My food arrived. The server set it down gently. Enjoy. I looked at the plate. Perfect turkey. Cranberry sauce. Mashed potatoes with a little pool of gravy. It looked like a magazine photo. I picked up my fork. I couldn't taste anything. I sat there pushing food around, trying to swallow past the lump in my throat. This wasn't about Thanksgiving. This wasn't about Melissa being pregnant or Mom wanting peace. This was about 24 years of being second, of being too much and not enough at the same time, of bending myself into smaller shapes, staying quiet, apologizing for having feelings. And it still wasn't good enough. The tears came before I could stop them. I turned toward the window, grabbed my napkin, pressed it against my eyes. Please don't let anyone notice. Honey. I froze. A woman's voice.
Soft. Concerned.
I looked up. The older woman from the family next to me was standing beside my table. Gray hair pulled back. Kind eyes. The sort of face that looked like it had listened to a lot of people's problems. Are you okay? I'm fine. The lie came automatically. Just allergies. She raised one eyebrow. Not judging. Just knowing. Allergies don't usually make people cry into their napkin on Thanksgiving. I let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. That obvious? Only to someone paying attention. She had a gentle voice, but strong underneath. I'm Caroline. Jenna. She glanced back at her family, then at me. No one should eat alone today. Why don't you join us? I shook my head fast. Oh no. I couldn't. I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering anyone. I'm inviting you. There's a difference. I really appreciate it, but my husband tells terrible jokes, she continued like I hadn't spoken. And my son keeps trying to start arguments about football. You might as well come suffer with us. From the big table, the older man waved at me. She won't take no for an answer. Trust me. 38 years married, and I've never won an argument. The younger son grinned. He's not wrong. I looked at my cold turkey, my empty corner table, my wet napkin. Then I looked at Caroline and her warm smile, and her family that somehow had room for a stranger. Okay, I heard myself say. If you're sure. I'm sure. Come on. We just opened another bottle of wine, and there's way too much pie. I stood up on shaky legs and followed her to the table, not knowing this moment was about to change my entire life. They made space for me like I'd always been there. Someone pulled up a chair. Someone else handed me a clean plate. Before I even sat down, I had a glass of wine and a warm roll. I'm David, the older man said, shaking my hand. This is my wife, Caroline. Our son Ben and his wife Amy. Their kids, Lily and Max. And our youngest, Josh. Hi. I gave a small wave. I'm Jenna. Thank you so much for... What do you do, Jenna? Ben asked, passing me the mashed potatoes. I'm a photographer. Freelance, mostly. That's so cool, Amy said. I can barely take a good picture on my phone. Mom, that's because you always cut off people's heads, Lily said. She looked about 9. Everyone laughed. Not at anyone. With each other. It was the warmest sound I'd heard in years. Josh caught my eye from across the table. He was about my age. Dark hair. Easy smile. Fair warning. My dad's about to tell a bad joke. I am not, David protested. He is, Caroline said, sipping her wine. David grinned. Okay, fine. What did the turkeys say to the computer? Dad, no, Ben groaned. Google, Google, Google. The kids giggled. Amy rolled her eyes. Josh shook his head. And I laughed. A real laugh. For the first time all day. David raised his glass. A toast. To unexpected guests who make our table better. Everyone raised their glasses. Including me. I looked around at these people. Strangers 15 minutes ago. And I felt something I hadn't felt in so long, I'd almost forgotten what it was. Warmth. Acceptance. Belonging. After dinner, while the kids ran around and the men argued about football, Caroline moved to the chair next to mine. How are you doing? She asked quietly. Really? I looked down at my plate. Better. This is really nice. Thank you. You're welcome. She took a sip of wine. But that's not what I asked. Something about the way she said it made me want to tell the truth. I'm okay. Just having a hard Thanksgiving. Do you want to tell me why you're here alone? I hesitated. The truth felt too sad to say out loud.
Too pathetic.
But Caroline waited. Patient. No judgment in her eyes. My mom called me 3 days ago. I finally said. Told me not to come home. My sister's pregnant, and she didn't want drama. Drama? Caroline's eyebrows went up. What drama? That's what they call it when I ask questions they don't like. Caroline nodded slowly. I see. It's fine, I added quickly. I mean, it's not fine, but... It's not fine, Caroline said gently. And you don't have to pretend it is. I felt my eyes sting again. Can I tell you something? Caroline said. I was a family counselor for 25 years. I've seen every kind of family situation you can imagine. I looked at her. And I've learned that the people who accuse you of causing drama, they're usually the ones creating it. They just need someone to blame. The words hit me hard. You're not the problem, Jenna, Caroline said, putting her hand over mine. You never were. I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. Those were the words I needed to hear my whole life. The evening ended slowly. The way good meals do. Pie was served. Coffee was poured. The kids fell asleep with their heads on the table. When the check came, I reached for my wallet. David waved me off. Our treat. I can't let you pay for me. You can and you will. He smiled. Consider it a tradition. We always buy dinner for new friends. As we got our coats and said goodbye, Caroline pressed something into my hand. A small card. Cream-colored with simple black text. Caroline Miller. Family counselor, retired. Below that, a phone number and an address. If you ever need to talk, she said, call me. I mean it. Thank you. David appeared beside us. We have dinner at our house every Sunday. You're welcome anytime. I shook my head. That's really kind, but I couldn't just... You could, Josh said, walking up. And you should. Mom never says things she doesn't mean. Caroline squeezed my hand. Family isn't just blood, Jenna. It's showing up. I stood there holding a business card from a woman I'd met 4 hours ago, receiving an invitation from people I had no connection to. Outside, the rain had stopped. Through the window, I could see families heading to their cars, kids being carried, grandparents holding to-go boxes. I looked back at the Millers. David helping Caroline with her coat, Ben carrying sleeping kids, Josh waiting by the door. Okay, I said. Maybe I'll come by sometime. Caroline smiled like she knew I'd say yes all along. I had no idea I'd just met my future family. I didn't go the next Sunday. Or the one after that. It felt too weird. Too much like I was forcing my way into someone else's family. But Caroline called.
Just to check in, she said. Just to see how I was doing.
By early December, I finally said yes. I stood on the Miller's porch for 5 whole minutes before I knocked. The house was beautiful. An old Seattle craftsman with a big porch and lights in every window. It looked like the kind of place where happy things happened. Caroline opened the door before I could change my mind. There you are. She pulled me into a hug. We saved you a seat. That was the first of many Sundays. Over the next few months, I became a regular at the Miller dinner table. David taught me to play chess. I lost every single time, but he never made me feel bad about it. Caroline showed me how to make her famous apple pie. She said she'd never written the recipe down, but she taught it to me anyway. Ben's kids started calling me Aunt Jenna without anyone telling them to. And Josh. Josh and I became friends. Real friends. The kind who texted random thoughts at midnight. Who argued about movies. Who sat next to each other at dinner without anyone arranging it. I didn't hear from my real family once. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a Christmas card. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. Because I wasn't performing anymore. Wasn't trying to be small enough or quiet enough or perfect enough. I was just loved. One afternoon in March, Caroline and I were sitting on her back porch. The garden was just starting to wake up. Little green shoots pushing through the dirt. Have you heard from your parents? She asked. I watched a bird land on the fence.
No.
And I haven't called them either. She nodded. No judgment. Do you want to?
I thought about it. Really thought about it.
Sometimes, I admitted. Late at night, I'll think about calling my mom, trying to explain. But then I remember there's nothing to explain. She knows what she did. That's hard to accept. It is. I pulled my sweater tighter. Everyone says you should forgive family no matter what. That blood is thicker than water. I've never believed that, Caroline said. I've seen too many people hurt by family. And I've seen too many people saved by the families they chose. I looked at her. Family can be created, Jenna. Not just inherited. There are even ways to make it official. Legal. If someone wants to. I didn't understand what she meant. Not yet. Something to think about, Caroline said softly. She changed the subject to her tomato plants. But her words stayed with me. 2 years after that first Thanksgiving, something changed. Josh and I weren't just friends anymore. We were something more. It happened so slowly, I almost didn't notice. But one day I realized I looked forward to seeing him more than anyone else. That when something good happened, he was the first person I wanted to tell. And he felt the same way. He asked me to dinner. At the Evergreen Room. The same restaurant where we met. This feels like a circle, I said, sitting down. That's the point. Josh looked nervous. He kept fidgeting with his napkin. I've been trying to figure out how to say this for weeks.
My heart started beating faster.
Jenna, I know your family hurt you. I know you're scared of people letting you down. He reached across the table and took my hand. But I'm not going anywhere. I never have been. He pulled out a small box. Jenna Parker, will you marry me? I couldn't breathe. I looked at this man who'd been my friend first. My best friend. The person who saw me on my worst days and stayed anyway. Yes, I whispered. Yes. He slipped the ring on my finger. The restaurant burst into applause. I'd been so focused on Josh, I hadn't noticed people watching. And then I saw them. In the corner booth. David and Caroline. Champagne already poured. Smiling like they'd known this was coming. Caroline couldn't help herself. Josh laughed. Mom had to be here. I looked at the ring on my finger. I was going to be a Miller. Wedding planning started immediately. Venues. Flowers.
Cake tastings.
Dress fittings. It was overwhelming and exciting and everything I never thought I'd have. But one question kept me up at night. The wedding invitation had a line for parents of the bride. And I didn't know what to write. Robert and Linda Parker? They hadn't called me in over 2 years. Hadn't acknowledged my birthday. Hadn't been part of my life in any way. I couldn't put their names on my invitation. They hadn't earned it. I was pacing in the Miller's living room when Caroline found me. What's wrong, sweetie? I told her. About the invitation. About the impossible line I couldn't fill. Caroline sat down and patted the couch beside her. Do you remember what I said about making family official? Legal? I nodded slowly. Adult adoption, she said gently. It's a real thing. A legal process where an adult chooses to be adopted by another family. My heart stopped. It creates a legal parent-child relationship. New birth certificate. Everything. I stared at her. Are you saying... David and I have thought of you as our daughter since that first Thanksgiving, she said softly. We were just waiting for you to be ready.
Tears spilled down my cheeks.
Really? She pulled me into a hug. Really? The adoption took a few months. Paperwork.
Court dates.
Legal stuff. But Caroline walked me through every step. When the judge signed the final papers, I became Jenna Miller. Legally. Officially. Forever. I had new parents. A new family. And I'd never felt more like I belonged. The wedding was set for next June. We picked a beautiful venue in the San Juan Islands. A place with water views and tall trees and enough space for everyone we loved. I addressed invitations at Caroline's kitchen table. Her handwriting was neater than mine, so she helped with the envelopes. When we got to the line that said, Parents of the Bride, I didn't hesitate. David and Caroline Miller. Underneath, in smaller letters, the family who chose her. Caroline cried when she saw it. David had to leave the room to blow his nose. I should have known my old family would find out eventually. 3 months before the wedding, my phone buzzed with a text. From Melissa. The first message in almost 3 years. Did you really get engaged and not tell anyone? I stared at the screen. Then I blocked the number. A week later, my mom called. 5 times in one afternoon. I let every call go to voicemail. Finally, a text. Asterisk, why didn't you tell us you're getting married? We're your family. Call me back right now. Asterisk. I read it twice. Then deleted it. 3 years of silence. 3 years of acting like I didn't exist. And now they suddenly remembered I was alive? Josh found me staring at my phone that night. Everything okay? My birth family found out about the wedding. He sat beside me. What do you want to do? Nothing, I said. I don't owe them anything. He nodded and pulled me close. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. I knew this wasn't over. The Parkers weren't the kind of people who accepted being ignored. But I didn't care anymore. They'd made their choice 3 years ago. Now I'd made mine. A month before the wedding, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it without thinking. Big mistake. Mom stood in my hallway. She looked older, grayer, more tired. But her eyes had the same look I remembered. The one that said I was disappointing her just by existing. Mom. The word felt strange. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? She pushed past me into my apartment. What are you doing? Getting married without telling your own mother? We haven't talked in 3 years. And whose fault is that? I closed the door slowly. Took a deep breath. Yours. Her mouth dropped open. Excuse me? It's your fault, Mom. You told me not to come home. You chose Melissa. You always chose Melissa. That was one Thanksgiving. It wasn't one Thanksgiving. My voice rose. It was my whole life. Every birthday. Every graduation. Every single thing that mattered to me. You picked her. Mom's eyes darted around my living room. She landed on the photos on my bookshelf. Me and Josh at the beach. Me and Caroline baking. The whole Miller family at Christmas. Me right in the center. Who are these people? My family. Her face twisted. I'm your family. You were, I said quietly. You chose not to be. I want an invitation to the wedding.
No.
She actually stumbled back. What? You heard me.
No.
Jenna, I am your mother. Not legally. I walked to the door and opened it. Not anymore. What are you talking about? I was adopted 2 years ago by David and Caroline Miller. They're my legal parents now. The color drained from her face. You what? I found a family who actually wanted me, who chose me first, who didn't make me earn basic love and respect. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The daughter who never fought back was gone. You need to leave, I said. Jenna. Please leave, Mom. She walked to the door.
Stopped.
Looked back at me. You're going to regret this. Maybe, I said. But it's my choice to make. She left. I closed the door. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt completely free. The wedding day arrived sunny and perfect. June in the San Juan Islands. Blue water. Green trees. Everything decorated with white flowers. In the bridal room, I stood in front of a mirror while Caroline fixed my veil. You look beautiful, she said softly. I looked at my reflection. The woman staring back was different from the girl who sat alone in a restaurant 3 years ago. Stronger.
Calmer.
Surer of herself. On the table sat a copy of the wedding program. I picked it up. Parents of the bride, David and Caroline Miller. The family who chose her. Caroline noticed me looking. Are you nervous? About marrying Josh?
No.
I set down the program. About what might happen. A little. I'd hired security. Just in case. After Mom showed up at my apartment, I knew there was a chance she'd try something. Caroline put her hands on my shoulders. Whatever happens today, you have people who love you. We will always choose you. I hugged her tight. I love you, Mom. It was the first time I'd called her that. It felt right. I love you too, sweetheart, Caroline whispered. My daughter. Through the window, I could see guests arriving. Josh was already at the altar, looking nervous and happy. It was time. Whatever happened next, I was ready. The ceremony was everything I'd dreamed of. Josh waiting for me. David walking me down the aisle, steady and proud. The vows we wrote ourselves. The ones that made half the guests cry. When Josh put the ring on my finger and the officiant said, I now pronounce you husband and wife, something clicked into place. Like the last piece of a puzzle. The reception was perfect. Music.
Dancing. Cake.
Laughter. And then the security guard found me. Mrs. Miller. He appeared next to me. Quiet. Professional. There are 2 people at the gate. They say they're your parents. My heart stopped. Josh appeared beside me. What's going on? My birth parents are here. His face went hard. I'll handle it.
No.
I took his hand. I will. I had a choice to make. I could have them removed. Pretend they weren't there.
Hide.
But something in me said no. Let them see. Let them see what they lost. Let them see the family who showed up when they walked away. Let them in, I told the security guard. But put them in the back. Don't seat them with family. Are you sure? Josh asked. I'm sure. The guard nodded and walked away. A few minutes later, I saw them, Mom and Dad, standing at the edge of the reception, looking around at the 100 people celebrating. Celebrating me, their daughter, who they hadn't spoken to in 3 years. The DJ was about to make an announcement. Perfect timing. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice boomed over the speakers. Can I have your attention, please? The music softened. People turned toward the front. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce some very special people. I watched my birth parents across the room. Mom was craning her neck, trying to see. Dad stood behind her, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. They had no idea what was coming. Please join me in welcoming the parents of the bride. Mom straightened up. I could see her getting ready to smile, to wave, to accept recognition she thought was hers. David and Caroline Miller. The room erupted in applause. David and Caroline stood from the head table, waving, beaming. People cheered. Someone whistled. The photographers snapped pictures. And, across the room, my mother's face went white. I watched it happen in slow motion. The confusion. The shock. The moment she understood. Asterisk David and Caroline Miller. The family who chose Jenna. Asterisk. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Her mouth was moving. I couldn't hear what she was saying. Dad looked stunned. Frozen. Around them, guests clapped and smiled. Nobody knew the older couple in the back had any connection to the bride. To everyone here, David and Caroline Miller were simply my parents. Because they were. Mom's face turned red, then white, then red again. She looked at the Millers accepting congratulations. Then at me, standing with my husband. And the truth finally hit her. She'd been replaced. Completely. Legally. Officially. And everyone here knew it except her. Mom pushed through the crowd. She reached me just as the applause died down. Her face was flushed. Her eyes wild. Dad trailed behind, looking like he wanted to disappear. What is going on? Mom's voice was a harsh whisper.
Who are those people?
I kept my voice calm. My parents. I told you. I was adopted 2 years ago. You what? She actually stumbled back. You can't just replace us. I didn't replace you, I said quietly. You left first. We never left you. You told me not to come home. You chose Melissa. Every single time. For 24 years. People nearby had noticed. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. That's not fair, Mom started. Fair. I felt Josh move closer to my side. You want to talk about fair? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I spent 24 years trying to earn a spot in your family. And you know what I got? A Thanksgiving alone. 3 years of silence. Not even a phone call to see if I was okay. I'm still your mother. Not legally. I held up my hand, both rings shining. Not emotionally. Not anymore. Around us, the room had gone completely quiet. 100 people watching. Mom looked around, suddenly aware of the audience. This is humiliating, she hissed. Then leave, I said softly. You came here uninvited. You don't get to play the victim. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The daughter, who never fought back, was gone. And then, for the first time in my entire life, my dad spoke up. Jenna. His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Dad had gotten older. Grayer. His shoulders slumped. But his eyes were wet. I'd never seen my dad cry. I'm sorry, he said again. I should have done better. Something cracked in my chest. Not healing. Just recognition. I know, Dad. I was a coward. His voice shook. I knew how your mother treated you. How Melissa treated you. And I just stood there. Mom grabbed his arm. Robert, what are you? He pulled away.
Kept his eyes on me.
You were my daughter. My little girl. And I let them make you feel like you didn't matter. A tear rolled down his cheek. I'm so sorry. The words I'd waited my whole life to hear. And they came too late. I know you're sorry, Dad, I said gently. But sorry doesn't undo the years. Sorry doesn't give me back my childhood. I know. He nodded, wiped his eyes. I know it doesn't. Caroline appeared at my shoulder. She didn't say anything, just put her hand on my arm. A quiet reminder. I wasn't alone. Mom stared at Caroline with pure hatred.
You, she spat.
You stole my daughter. Caroline's expression didn't change. I didn't steal anyone, Mrs. Parker. I just offered what you wouldn't give. Love without conditions. How dare you? David stepped forward.
Calm. Steady.
I think it's time for you to leave. Mom's jaw dropped. Who are you to tell us? I'm her father, David said quietly. Legally and in every way that matters. You stole our daughter. David shook his head.
No, ma'am.
We didn't steal anything. You threw her away. We just picked up what you discarded. Mom flinched like he'd slapped her. 5 years ago, David continued, this young woman sat alone in a restaurant on Thanksgiving because her own family told her she wasn't welcome.
His voice stayed calm,
but firm. My wife invited her to our table. We fed her. We talked to her. We treated her like family. He looked at Mom. Do you know what she told us that night? She said she couldn't remember the last time she felt wanted. Mom opened her mouth. Nothing came out. We didn't steal your daughter. We showed her what family looks like. The rest was her choice. He nodded to security. Please escort these people out. The security guard stepped forward. But I held up my hand. Wait. Everyone froze. Mom looked at me with something like hope. Maybe she thought I was going to change my mind. Invite them to stay. I walked toward my birth parents. Stopped a few feet away.
Mom.
Dad. The words still felt strange. I need you to understand something. Mom's chin lifted. Defensive already. What? I don't hate you. Whatever she expected me to say, it wasn't that. I don't hate you, I repeated. I've made peace with who you are. I took a breath. You're not bad people. You're just people who couldn't love me the way I needed. Who chose comfort over fairness. Who let one daughter become invisible so the other could shine. Dad was crying again. Mom's face was a mask. But I've also made peace with who I am. I stood straighter. And I'm someone who deserves to be chosen. Not as a backup. Not as an afterthought. Chosen first. I looked at them both. The parents I'd spent my childhood trying to please. You didn't choose me. They did. I gestured to the Millers. And I choose them. The room was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Mom finally found her voice. Jenna. I'm not erasing you from my history, I said quietly. I'm just not giving you a place at my table anymore. And that's not revenge. That's just what happens when you push someone away for too long. I nodded to security. Goodbye, Mom. Dad. The guards moved forward. Dad didn't resist.
He just looked at me one more time.
Tears streaming down his face. I love you, Jenna. I always did. I just didn't know how to show it. I know, I said softly. Mom said nothing as they were led away. She didn't look back. As soon as they were gone, the wedding guests started applauding. Not for the drama. For me. For standing up for myself. For choosing the family that chose me. David put his arm around me. You okay? I nodded. Wiped my eyes.
Yeah.
I really am. The rest of the wedding was perfect. We danced. We laughed. We ate cake. Josh spun me around the dance floor until I was dizzy and happy. For those few hours, I let myself forget the confrontation. I just let myself be happy. The next morning, my phone started buzzing. Texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Messages from aunts and uncles I barely knew. The extended Parker family had heard about the wedding. And they had opinions. How could you do this to your mother? Family is family no matter what. You've broken your father's heart. I deleted them without reading most of them. But then one message came through that made me stop. From my Aunt Patricia, Dad's younger sister. Asterisk Jenna, I heard what happened. I want you to know I'm proud of you. Asterisk. I stared at the screen. Asterisk, I always knew Linda treated you wrong. I tried to say something once, and she didn't speak to me for a year. But you deserved better. You always did. Asterisk. My eyes burned. I typed back. Asterisk, thank you. That means everything. Asterisk. On Facebook, Mom posted a long, dramatic status about ungrateful children, about modern families who don't understand loyalty, about daughters who abandon their parents. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. That evening, I blocked every phone number and social media account connected to the Parker family. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Josh found me on our hotel balcony. You okay? I looked out at the water. The sun setting gold and pink. Yeah, I said. I really am. For the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying the weight of people who didn't want to carry me. I was free. 2 weeks after the wedding, a letter arrived.
Handwritten.
The return address said Melissa Parker Collins, my sister. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. Dear Jenna, asterisk, I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. Asterisk. Asterisk, Mom told me what happened at your wedding. She's devastated. Dad hasn't been the same. Asterisk. Asterisk, I know we haven't always been close. But you have to understand, Mom and Dad were just trying to keep peace. I never meant to make you feel left out. Asterisk. Asterisk, you always made everything so complicated. Always asking questions. Bringing up old stuff. It was exhausting. Asterisk. Maybe when you have kids, you'll understand why Mom made the choices she made. Asterisk, I'm not asking you to apologize. I just wanted you to know we still love you, even if you've decided we're not good enough anymore. Asterisk. Your sister, Melissa. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully. Put it in a drawer. Josh came home and found me at the kitchen table. What's that? Letter from Melissa. What did she say? Nothing new. I stood up. Started making dinner. She still doesn't get it. She probably never will. Does that bother you?
I thought about it. Really thought about it.
No, I said. It's not my job to make her understand. It never was. A year after the wedding, life was good. Josh and I bought a house just outside Seattle. Close enough to visit the Millers. Far enough for our own space. I'd gotten a job at a photography studio. A real job with benefits and everything. Josh was doing well at his architecture firm. We were building a life. And I was pregnant. Caroline cried when we told her. David tried not to cry and failed. Ben's kids immediately started arguing about who would be the baby's favorite cousin. One Sunday, Caroline and I were setting up the nursery, painting the walls soft yellow, putting together tiny furniture. Have you thought about names? Caroline asked. Sarah, I said. If it's a girl, Sarah Grace Miller. Caroline's eyes filled with tears. That's beautiful. The Miller part is non-negotiable, I smiled. I want her to have the name of the family that chose her mother. Caroline set down the paintbrush and hugged me. You know, she said, when I saw you in that restaurant 5 years ago, I had no idea we'd end up here. You saved my life that night. No, sweetie. She pulled back, looked me in the eyes. You saved yourself. We just showed you it was possible. I looked around the nursery, at the crib we picked together, at the rocking chair David built by hand, at the life I'd created with people who loved me. I finally had everything I'd always wanted. I was home. 5 years to the day after I sat alone in the evergreen room, I sat at a very different table. The Miller house was beautiful chaos. Sarah, now 4 years old, was being passed from lap to lap. Everyone wanted to hold her. Ben's kids were playing a card game in the corner,
getting louder by the minute.
Amy was arguing with Josh about the best way to carve turkey. David was sneaking extra pie when he thought Caroline wasn't looking. She totally saw him. All right, everyone. Caroline clapped her hands. Before we eat, we need a toast. She raised her glass, looked at me. Jenna, would you like to say something? I stood up, Sarah in my arms. I looked around the table at the family I'd found. The family that found me. 5 years ago today, I was sitting alone in a restaurant. I thought I was unlovable. I thought something was wrong with me. My voice cracked a little. I thought I was too much, too difficult, too dramatic. Josh squeezed my hand under the table. And then a stranger named Caroline Miller walked up to my table and said, "No one should eat alone on this day." I paused. Everything changed after that. David wiped his eyes. Caroline was already crying. So here's my toast. I raise my glass. To family. Not the one we're born into, but the one we choose. The one that chooses us back. To family, everyone echoed. Glasses clinked. Sarah giggled. And I looked around at these people. My people. I belonged.
Completely.
Finally. After dinner, Josh and I sat on the back porch with Sarah asleep between us. The November air was cold, but we had blankets. We watched the stars come out one by one. Do you ever think about them? Josh asked quietly. Your birth parents? I thought about it. Sometimes, I admitted. Late at night, mostly. I wonder if they've changed. If they understand what they lost. Do you think they have? I shook my head.
People rarely change.
Not in the ways that matter. Does that make you sad? I looked at Sarah. Her tiny hand curled near her face. Her chest rising and falling. It used to, I said. But not anymore. I spent too many years being sad about people who didn't want me. I don't have room for that now. Josh wrapped his arm around me. What changed? I did, I said. I stopped waiting for them to love me right. I stopped making myself smaller. And I started building something new. Through the window, I could see the Miller family cleaning up, laughing, being together. My family. Setting boundaries isn't mean, I said softly. It's survival. It's choosing yourself when nobody else will. Josh kissed my forehead. I'm glad you chose yourself. Me too. Sarah stirred, made a soft sound. I picked her up, held her close. I'll never make you earn my love, I whispered to her. You'll never wonder if you're wanted. I promise.
She yawned,
fell back asleep, and I meant every word. The next day, I was cleaning out a drawer when I found it. The letter from Melissa. From a year ago. I'd forgotten about it. I sat on the bed and read it again. Maybe when you have kids, you'll understand why Mom made the choices she made. I looked at Sarah playing on the floor, stacking blocks, laughing when they fell. No, Melissa, I thought. I understand even less now, because I could never imagine choosing one of my children over another. I could never imagine making my daughter feel unwanted. I could never imagine telling her not to come home. Having Sarah didn't make me understand Mom's choices. It made me realize how wrong they were. I tore up the letter, threw it away, and I let it go. That afternoon, Caroline came over for tea. We sat at my kitchen table while Sarah showed her a drawing. It's a dinosaur, Sarah announced proudly. It's beautiful, Caroline said seriously. After Sarah ran off to play, Caroline looked at me. How are you? Really? Good, I said. And I meant it. Really good. No regrets. I thought about it. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd tried harder. If I'd called them. If I'd apologized for things that weren't my fault. Caroline waited. But then I look at my life now. At Josh. At Sarah. At you and David. And this whole family. And I realize something. What's that? If I'd kept trying to fix things with them, I would have missed all of this. I would have spent my whole life chasing people who didn't want to be caught. I looked at Caroline. You taught me that I deserve better than that. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You always deserved better, Jenna. I'm just glad you finally believe it. Sarah came running back with another drawing. Grandma Caroline. Look. Caroline pulled her onto her lap. Tell me all about it. I watched them together. This was what family looked like. Not perfect. Not without hard times. But full of love. Full of choice. Full of showing up. That night, after Sarah was asleep, I stood in her doorway. Watching her breathe. Watching her dream. Josh came up behind me. Wrapped his arms around my waist. You okay? Yeah, I whispered. Just thinking. About what? About how different her life is going to be. She'll never know what it's like to feel unwanted by her own parents. She'll never have to earn love. Because of you, Josh said. Because of all of us. I leaned back against him. The Millers taught me how to be a parent. How to love without conditions. We stood there in the quiet. I'm breaking the cycle, I said softly. It ends with me. Josh kissed my temple. I know you are. And I was. Sarah would grow up knowing she was chosen. Every single day. No matter what. If you're reading this and you've been the one left out. The one who's always too much or not enough. The one who gets uninvited. Overlooked. Forgotten. I need you to know something. It's not you. It never was. You deserve to be chosen. Not as a backup plan. Not when it's convenient. Not after everyone else has been taken care of. Chosen first. Chosen fully. Chosen without conditions. Family isn't just blood. Family isn't DNA or last names or who you share a childhood with. Family is the people who show up. The people who see you crying alone and say, "Come sit with us." The people who open their homes and their hearts and make space for you. I spent 24 years trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. And then I spent 5 years learning what real love looks like. Not from the family I was born into, but from the family who chose me. If the people who are supposed to love you can't do it right, you have permission to walk away. You have permission to find people who will. You have permission to build your own family. That's not betrayal. That's not being ungrateful. That's survival. That's choosing yourself when nobody else will. I found my people. Caroline, who saw a stranger crying and offered kindness. David, who taught me what a father's protection feels like. Josh, who loved me even when I didn't know how to love myself. And now Sarah, who will grow up knowing she's wanted. Always. The Parker family still doesn't understand. Mom posts on Facebook sometimes about family loyalty, about ungrateful children. I don't respond. I don't need to. Dad sent a birthday card last year. For Sarah. Inside, he wrote, "Asterisk, I hope you know your grandpa loves you. Even if I never got to show your mommy the right way. Asterisk." I cried when I read it. Not because I wanted to reconcile, but because it was too late for us. And that's sad. But it's also okay. Some relationships can't be fixed. Some families can't be saved. And that's not your fault. Melissa got divorced last year. Aunt Patricia told me. Part of me wanted to reach out, to offer support. But I didn't. Because I've learned something important. You can wish someone well from a distance. You can hope they find peace. But you don't have to let them back into your life. Boundaries aren't walls. They're gates. And I get to decide who comes through. Last week, Sarah asked me about my parents. We were driving home from school. She was eating apple slices in her car seat. "Mommy, why do I only have one grandma and grandpa?" My heart stopped. I'd known this question was coming. I just didn't know when. "Well," I said carefully, "some kids have 2 sets of grandparents. And some have 1. And some have even more. But where are your mommy and daddy?" I pulled into our driveway, turned off the car, turned around to look at her. "I have a mommy and daddy," I said. "Grandma Caroline and Grandpa David. They chose to be my parents when I was grown up." Sarah frowned. "How come?" "Because the parents I had when I was little didn't know how to love me the right way. So, I found parents who did."
She thought about this.
Her 4-year-old brain working hard. "Did it make you sad?"
For a long time, yeah.
"It made me very sad." "Are you still sad?" I looked at my daughter. This beautiful little person who would never know what it felt like to be unwanted.
"No, baby."
"I'm not sad anymore." "How come?" "Because I found Grandma Caroline and Grandpa David. And Uncle Ben, and Aunt Amy. And Daddy.
And you."
I smiled. "You guys make me so happy. I don't have room to be sad anymore." She smiled back.
"Good."
"I don't like when you're sad." "I know, sweetheart." She went back to her apple slices. And just like that, the conversation was over. That's the thing about kids. They accept things so easily. One grandma and grandpa? Okay. Parents who chose each other? Okay. Family that looks different? Okay. It's only adults who make it complicated. This Thanksgiving, we went to the Miller's house like we always do. The table was full.
Loud. Chaotic.
Sarah sat between her cousins, fighting over who got the biggest role. Josh and Ben were arguing about football. Amy and Caroline were laughing about something in the kitchen. David was carving the turkey, pretending he knew what he was doing. I sat there watching all of them. My family. And I thought about that girl 5 years ago, sitting alone in a restaurant, crying into her napkin, thinking she was unlovable. If I could go back and tell her something, it would be this. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not the problem. You just haven't found your people yet. But you will. And when you do, everything will make sense. All the hurt, all the rejection, All the years of feeling like you didn't fit. It will all make sense. Because you weren't meant to fit in their family. You were meant to find your own. After dinner, Caroline pulled me aside. I want to tell you something, she said. Okay. She took my hands. 5 years ago, when I walked up to your table, I thought I was just being kind to a stranger. I had no idea that stranger would become my daughter. Her eyes filled with tears. But I want you to know something, Jenna. You didn't just become our daughter. You made us better parents, better people, better grandparents. Caroline, let me finish. She squeezed my hands. Watching you heal, watching you choose yourself, watching you build a life full of love. That's been one of the greatest joys of my life. I was crying now too. Thank you for letting me adopt you, I whispered. She laughed through her tears. Thank you for letting me love you. We hugged for a long time. When we pulled apart, David was standing there with Sarah on his shoulders. Grandpa, higher, Sarah demanded. Any higher, and you'll hit the ceiling, David laughed. Josh appeared with his phone. Okay, family photo. Everyone get together. We all crowded in. Sarah still on David's shoulders. Caroline next to me. Josh with his arm around us. Ben and Amy and their kids squeezing in. Say turkey. Josh called. Turkey, we all shouted. The camera clicked. And I knew that photo would go on my wall. Right next to all the others. My family. Not the one I was born into. The one I chose. The one that chose me back. And that made all the difference. So, if you're out there right now feeling alone, feeling unwanted, feeling like you don't belong anywhere, please hear me. You do belong. Just maybe not where you are right now. Your people are out there. The ones who will see you crying and offer you a seat. The ones who will love you without conditions. The ones who will choose you first. Every time.
Keep going.
Keep looking.
Keep hoping.
Because I promise you, they're out there. And when you find them, you'll finally understand what family really means. Not obligation. Not guilt. Not blood. Just love. Pure, simple, unconditional love. That's what family is. And everyone deserves it. Including you. Especially you. My name is Jenna Miller. And this is my story of being unchosen by one family and chosen by another. The end.